the Heritage Foundation. I'm Tim Descher, and this is Heritage Explains. We've spent significant time over the last year talking about the dangers of socialism and how devastating it would be for America to embrace these ideas coming from the left. All around the country, in places like Iowa, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, leaders on the left are touting massive government programs to solve issues like healthcare, student loan debt, and man-made climate change. They make these very moving announcements and tout government as the solution to all the problems. But what does it cost? And what would be the impact on our economy? Maybe Senator Elizabeth Warren knows.
That's why I'm calling for universal free college and the cancellation of student loan debt of up to $50,000 for 42 million Americans.
No, nothing there. How about Senator Cory Booker?
It's one of the reasons why I signed on to the resolution, a co-sponsor of the resolution for the Green New Deal. And there's a lot of people now that are blowing back on the Green New Deal. They're like, oh, it's impractical. Oh, it's too expensive. Oh, it's all of this. If we used to govern our dreams that way, we would have never gone to the moon. The planet has been in peril in the past. Who came forward to save Earth from the scourge of Nazi and totalitarian regimes? We came forward. Who came forward to save the planet from, or continents from financial ruin? We came forward with the Marshall Plan. Our history is standing up and saying, look, humanity is in crisis. America is going to be light and the hope.
Nope, nothing there either. Vice President Biden, you're up.
So today, I'm announcing my plan for a clean energy revolution. It outlines what we have to do to meet this challenge head on and how we're going to get there. We're going to invest $1.7 trillion in securing our future so that by 2050, the United States will be 100% clean energy economy with net zero emissions.
And nothing there. After being challenged by Martha McCallum at a Fox News town hall, Senator Bernie Sanders gets closer, but still won't go all the way.
Let's just say hypothetically.
Okay.
You are self-employed, and you've got a husband and 2 kids, okay? Family of 4. Do you know how much that family is paying today for health care?
How many?
$28,000 a year.
Okay.
All right, we're spending $11,000 per person. We are saying to that family of 4, you ain't going to pay that $28,000. You're not paying any more premiums. You're not paying any more co-payments. You're not paying any more deductibles. How's that? $28,000 you're not paying. But does that mean you're not going to pay something? Of course it does. You're going to pay more in taxes.
And straight from the mouth of a proud socialist and someone who honeymooned in communist Russia, this stuff has a price tag. It's very expensive, and you're going to have to pay more taxes in order to get it. And since the cat is now out of the bag, that America's taxes will be going up if these programs are implemented, the next logical question is by how much? And who is going to pay it? Will the rich be able to foot the entire bill, or will the middle class have to pay more taxes? Adam Michel is a senior policy analyst in the Grover M. Herman Center for the Federal Budget here at Heritage. He just released a very helpful report that breaks down the cost of these socialist programs and who will pay for them. This week, he explains. Adam Michel, first of all, it's so good to have you back in the studio on Explains. And I've really enjoyed reading your recent piece. It's called A Progressive Roadmap for Soaking the Middle Class. And this should serve as a guide for everyone who wants to see what would happen if socialism is implemented here in America.
Thanks for having me on.
You use Europe as the model in this report, basically saying if Americans want European-style government services, our version of that would be Medicare for all, the Green New Deal, free college. You say they should be ready for a European model style of taxation. So can you just explain kind of basically what that means?
What I see missing in the conversation is we talk about all the things that we're gonna get from Medicare for all. You name it, what you pick your favorite spending program, but we never talk about how we're gonna pay for it. And often you hear from folks on the left, well, we're just gonna tax the rich, and that's mathematically impossible to tax the rich enough to pay for the $50 trillion program that has been proposed by the progressive left.
So it's $50 trillion to pay for Medicare for all, Green New Deal, and free college. That's basically what you've come up with?
So that's the conservative estimate. The higher end is like $100 trillion over 10 years.
Wow.
So at the conservative end, a $50 trillion spending package would be more than doubling the annual federal budget. And so then the question is, how do we pay for it? It's mathematically impossible to tax the rich enough to pay for all of this. So someone else has to pay. And if we look to the European model, it's low income and middle class Americans who foot the bill. They pay higher income tax rates, they pay higher payroll tax rates, and they pay higher sales tax rates. In Europe, it's called a value-added tax. But all of those things, people pay significantly more.
So from a policy perspective, coming from the left, it's kind of hard to hide from those numbers. How are they spinning that reality that they have to face, that there just isn't enough money from the wealthy to pay for this?
No one's asking them to spin it. People just assume that we can tax the rich enough, that currently the rich aren't paying their fair share, and that there's enough money there to pay for all these priorities. Often you hear that we're going to raise the top marginal tax rate to 70%. We're going to add a wealth tax, and we're going to put a new financial transactions tax, like the big three that are trumpeted by your Elizabeth Warrens and your Bernie Sanders. If you take those three revenue raisers from on the rich, you raise about $300 billion, and that is just a small fraction of a current budget deficit. And it's even smaller percentage of that long-term $50 trillion number. It's about 6% of what has been proposed in spending. So then you have to talk about raising taxes on someone else, and the only people that are left are middle-class Americans.
And just stepping aside real quick from our conversation with Adam, I just wanted to bring you just into the studio here with me a little bit and ask you to be a part of this show by really helping us share what we do here at Heritage Explains. And you can do this in a number of ways. You can leave a 5-star rating on iTunes. Just scroll all the way down and hit the stars. Hit 5 stars if you like the show that we're doing here. You can post on your social media. Just if there's a particular episode you like, get the link and share it with your friends there. You can email us. We love to communicate with our listeners, and the only way we know what's on your mind is if you tell us. So email us at managingeditor@heritage.org. That's managingeditor@heritage.org. And again, we really, really appreciate all the interaction that we get from you, so please keep it up. All right, let's get back to the conversation. Let's get into just kind of the specifics of how inevitably we're going to have to pay for these. And again, you use the European style of taxation to kind of give an example as to how new taxes will manifest themselves here in America. Can you explain to me what a consumption tax is versus an income tax?
So an income tax is what most people are most familiar with in the U.S. It's what you pay on your wages. You get a check and you give the government some percentage of that. Consumption tax can mean a lot of different things. The most simple version of it is in the United States a sales tax. Every single thing that you spend money on, anything that you consume, is taxed at one rate, and that looks like a sales tax in the United States. There's different versions of it around the world, but that's essentially what's going on.
And really, what you're talking about here is that America is going to have to put some sort of what the Europeans call a VAT tax or a value-added tax in addition to the sales tax or the gas tax and things like that. Is that correct?
So the easiest way to raise a ton of money really fast,
what we need to do to pay for $50 trillion.
is a new tax. So that's either a value-added tax or a carbon tax or a combination of sort of all of the things that we're talking about. But there's no way to raise $50 trillion simply by increasing the income tax in the United States.
So is this where we're headed then?
I hope not. If Congress can get spending under control, which is very doable, the Heritage Foundation every year releases our blueprint to balance the federal budget, and this year our blueprint cuts taxes and reduces spending so that we can balance the budget by 2029 and then pay down the debt beyond that. So if Congress were just to take some portion of our proposal, this future doesn't have to happen, but it's certainly the track that we're running down right now.
I think the point that you make in the report is just so important, which it says that a VAT tax or a value-added tax is just another way to raise taxes on lower and middle-class workers and retirees here in America.
One of the reasons why Europe leans so heavily on a value-added tax, their consumption tax, is because it is so easy to raise so much money from so many people. Just like sales taxes here in the United States, everyone pays the same rate, and every time you buy something, you pay the tax. It's not just a tax that is paid by someone earning over $500,000 a year, like the top marginal rate of the income tax in the U.S. It's a tax that you and I pay, and it's a tax that the single mother pays on all of the goods that she needs to buy at the store. And so it is, a lot of economists say it's a regressive tax because of this fact, because a lot of poor people, more of their money is spent at the store rather than doing other things. But ultimately, it's just a way to raise more money from more people.
Many on the left say that we need a big social safety net system like they have in Europe, but the problem is that Europeans pay big for it. So what would that look like for us here in America?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. Big government is expensive. And when you look at sort of average across Europe, someone earning 2/3 the average wage, that's like $37,000, they pay marginal tax rates of about 50%. So if I want to go work for Uber and earn an additional couple of dollars on the side, the government's going to take half of that. And on top of that, that same person also, when they go out to the store to buy food for their kids or buy their next car, they have to pay a 20% sales tax on each of those purchases through a value-added tax. That same person in the United States earning $37,000 a year pays an average marginal tax rate of 32% and an average sales tax rate of 6%.
Wow.
Europe may have these generous social welfare programs, but they also have tax rates that pay for them. And those tax rates are on lower and middle class taxpayers. They don't tax the rich to fund every single dollar of these programs.
And that's coming straight for us if we do this.
That's the future that's ahead of us if we continue to increase spending on everyone's favorite priorities.
Because it's just going to get easier and easier to say we have to pay for this. If you wanted this, you asked for it, you got it. Now we have to pay for it. Let's vote for this tax increase, essentially.
Correct. And the game that's been played historically in the United States is that high tax rate on the rich that the AOCs of the world keep peddling it would come to fruition. They will implement that high tax rate on quote unquote rich people. But then that's used to leverage support for higher taxes on everyone else. This happened during the New Deal era. It happened during World War II. Tax rates were at some points at a high rate of 94% at the top. But at the same time as those tax rates are going up at the top, the bottom thresholds were cut in half. Tax rates went up from a couple percent to 20 some odd percent at that bottom bracket. And so it's not just what's happening at the top. The bottom also, the low income Americans also have to pay if we're going to increase spending like some people are proposing.
Adam, I just wanted to thank you for coming in today and kind of clearing this up for us. The piece is called A Progressive Roadmap for Soaking the Middle Class. A great title, and it's very relevant to what we're facing right now from the left.
Thanks for having me on. This is a under-talked about topic. Often the left is given a pass on just saying they're going to raise taxes on the rich, but it really is their roadmap to raising taxes on every American, and we should push back on that.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Heritage Explains. We love doing this podcast and are excited to continue producing a quality product for you. And a big welcome and thank you to all the new listeners that have found us. If you are a new listener, do us a favor. Let us know. Our email address, once again, is managingeditor@heritage.org. We really look forward to hearing from you. Michelle will be back next week with more on the failures of socialism.
Heritage Explains is produced by Michelle Cordero and Tim Desher, with editing by Thalia Rampersad.
It's because of support from listeners like you that we can continue to produce podcasts like Heritage Explains and SCOTUS 101. And you can help us keep it going by visiting www.heritage.org/podcast today to make your tax-deductible gift.